Hey everyone, Hexlex here with yet another Master Duel video. So this one is something that I've seen requested in not only the comments of my videos, but I've seen interest in it on the Master Duel Discord as well. And I see some people asking, particularly in my combo guide video, these combos are great, but what do I do if I'm going second? I've mentioned a couple of times in some of my gameplay videos that Tri-Brigade Zoodiac in particular is a deck that's very good at both going first and second. Ideally, you'd want to go first, and if you win the coin flip, you should pretty much always pick to go first. You should on ladder. Obviously, if you knew what your opponent was playing, sometimes you might want to go second, but we don't know, so we generally always want to go first. But the deck that I am using for Zoodiac Tri-Brigade, which I'll go ahead and show just real quick, is still the same build from my deck profile. I've not changed it at all. And this build, as soon as it loads, this build I particularly like for going second. Or rather, I like some of the card choices because they help us go second and play strong from there. Particularly, we have 2 Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster are going to be able to clear out any back row that our opponent sets up. We've also obviously got 3 Ash, 3 Sea, and 3 Imperm. Those are very handy, obviously as hand traps to stop our opponent from going off, but yeah, the 2 Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Dust are a bit more of a tech choice. I think if you're playing a combo deck in Master Duel on Ranked, then you should definitely be playing some amount of back row disruption. Whether it's Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Dust, or Twin Twister is a good option. I think it's Galaxy Cyclone. Is that the one that banishes a spell or trap or something? That one's decent. If you really don't have anything else, I guess you can use Mystical Space Typhoon, but Twin Twisters is a super rare. It's not that hard to craft, and it's a much superior card. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the replays. I've got 5 here, actually. 5 replays that are good showcases for... winning duels where we go second. So the first one is going to be this one at the bottom here. Now this is actually a pretty exciting duel. We're actually going to end up going second against Drytron, which I'm sure any of you who have been competitively laddering have seen Drytron multiple times. And as you can see, we only opened up an Imperm, but that's the only hand trap we opened. And against Drytron, they're going to be able to do a lot. And a part of me is a little tempted to fast forward the combo, but I mean, the replays already go fast enough. But this is actually, funnily enough, this is the first time I've ever gotten full comboed by Drytrons. In all my laddering, I've of course played against Drytrons a lot, but I've either been lucky enough to go first or to have like multiple disruptions. I've shared some Drytron matches in some of my other replay videos, and if you watch those, you can see I pretty much always in those replays just imperm the Diviner like I'm doing here, and then I'm good. But I'm not going to get so lucky this time. This Drytron player is going to get to more or less fully combo out and just do, again, more or less whatever they want. Now, okay, here's the thing. They went ahead and set up their Natasha here. I have to throw out a disclaimer for a future misplay that you're going to see, and it is a big one. I was foolish enough to not read Natasha, and this is why you should always read the cards in this game. Well, it's not necessarily that I didn't read it, it's that I misread it. When I was reading the card, I was just kind of skimming it over, because, again, this is the full time I'd ever seen a full Drytron combo. So I saw the Natasha get summoned, and I skimmed it over, and I don't know, I guess I just somehow missed the take control of a monster effect. I thought that my opponent was just using Natasha as a material, and that she just recurred herself, and I'm like, okay, it's a recurring, ritual summon material. That fodder, that makes sense. Yeah, I totally glossed over the part where she also takes control of an opponent's monster, so yeah, we're gonna see a misplay related to that here coming up, but you can see this is the full Drytron combo. I mean, our opponent got off the big guy, what is it, Draconis or something, and the Union Carrier with the Eva and the Exceed. Now here's the important thing to note though. As intimidating as this looks though, if we actually read our opponent's card effects to see what they can stop, the Exceed can stop one of my spell or traps, okay, and Draconis can send some of my cards to the grave as a quick effect, okay, but notably, they can't negate my monster effects. So even though I know my Shurag is going to get destroyed here, I can pretty confidently go into Shurag to banish the big guy, knowing that that effect is not going to get negated. And as you can see, I have not yet used my normal summon. I set this play up in a way purposefully where I could bait out the negation, or rather bait out the destruction, and then go into Shirag. Now my opponent is going to add Orange Herald here, which is a bit of a problem, but it's actually not going to be that much of an issue in the long run here. We're going to go ahead and Desires, summon Fractal, and I'm going to use Fractal's effect in an attempt to draw out this Orange Herald, although I'm pretty sure at this point I noticed that my opponent wasn't being given a prompt to respond, if I recall the duel correctly. So at this point I knew their other card wasn't a fairy, and as a result they weren't able to use Orange Herald. So yeah, I'm going to start going into my Zoodiac play, and the more astute players of you are probably already seeing where my misplay is going to come in. Don't worry, it's coming up. But in the meantime, this is me blissfully unaware, like, oh, look at me, I managed to play through a full Drytron combo. That wasn't so scary. All they had was a big guy and a spell trap negation, right? Truly nothing else could come back later to bite me in the ass. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get our attacks in here and set up for our big 4-material Zeus. Now, if we remember Natasha's effect, where is she? I mean, it's going to happen anyway, and I mean, I'm sure all of you all know. Anyway, I'll stop beating around the bush. Yes, our opponent's going to get to special summon Natasha from the graveyard and take control of our 5 material Zeus. Not that the 5th material matters, but it's not during the standby phase, that's right. Yeah, see, again, here I was all confident. I'm like, oh, they have a spell, I've got the Imperial Order. Like, what are they gonna do at this point? Like, what could they even do? Well, here's what they could do. They could summon Natasha and steal your Zeus. Oh, that's a big yikes. Yeah, our opponent's going to go ahead and get the Zeus off, which is really unfortunate. Although we are going to get to flip Revolt in response, and I believe we actually banish the Zeus here. Huh, you know, it's funny, I knew I ended up banishing my own Zeus to out it, but I thought it was later. It's, you know what, it's because, you know, in the actual live duel, there's so many more pauses as you and your opponent are thinking, and when I saw the Natasha get banished or get summoned out, that's when I read the take control effect, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm sitting here groaning, like, my Zeus is gonna get taken, this duel that I should have won, I'm gonna lose. Like, I really should have just stopped at Rugal and saved the Zoodiac monster, like, save the Zeus for later once the Natasha was out of things to banish and would be able to recur itself. Oh, I guess I didn't. Hang on. Did I not banish Zeus there? I guess it was later that I banished Zeus. Oh, that's right, because Shirag didn't get a chance to activate because it got sent to the graveyard. Its other effect activated. That was another misplay on my part. Yeah, I didn't realize that was going to happen. That's right, I had to rip the Lightning Storm. So you can see here, this is, if nothing else, a testament to the full power of Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, right? You can go second against Drytron, they can fully combo, you can even misplay and get your Zeus stolen and make other misplays, and you can still come out on top with this deck. Yeah, I went for the 2-material Appalachia here because I didn't really have a whole lot else that was that great to go into. And it looks like our opponent's out of stuff too. They just drew and passed. They do have the Orange Herald here, but I was lucky enough to draw the Called from the Grave, so the Orange Herald isn't going to be an issue, and I believe we're going to be able to attack for game at this point as we're able to go into a Link 3 and then into Access Code. Is that what's about? No, I do go into Access Code, but I have to do it a little bit weirdly because I already used both Rugal and the Eagle. That's right. Yeah, so our opponent's going to try to Eva here. I don't want to risk them getting another Orange Herald set up, so I'm just going to go ahead and negate the Eva. Oh, and that's right, we're going to end up using Bearbrum's effect, since neither of those cards, the Harpies and I believe it was a Maxi, are going to be of any real use to us. We're going to be able to set up a big access code talker here with our Appalachia still up in case they have a monster effect in hand to respond with, but they don't, so we're able to attack for game. So, again, the power of Zoodiac Tri-Brigade, right? We got full comboed on by Drytron, we got our Zeus stolen, we misplayed a couple of times, and we still won the duel. Alright, so the next replay that I want to show off is actually going to be one at the top here, and it's one I bet a lot of you are going to be interested in. This was the most recent duel I had on my way back up to Plat 1. That'll be content for a future video. But, yeah, I'm sure many of you have come up against many decks on the ladder that are stun decks. I mean, I'll stop beating around the bush here. We all know the one, right? It's Eldritch. We all come up against a lot of Eldritch, and a pretty frequent question I see is like, well, what are you supposed to do when Eldritch goes first and they just like set up a bunch of back row? How do we play through that? Well, this duel is actually a pretty decent showcase of how to play through that. So we're going to negate their extravagance so they don't get any advantage, and then they're going to set 3. So that's a little bit intimidating, right? But we're going to start off with Desires, not only because we don't have any more combo pieces, but also so that we can try to get some back row destruction. Our opponent's going to respond with Max C, which I think is pretty interesting. By interesting, I mean it's a misplay. We're just going to go ahead and set Nerval and then R3 traps and pass. Not letting our opponent get anything off the Max C. Since it's pretty clear they're going to be playing slowly, we can take it a little bit slower as well. We don't have to combo off right away. And we want to play a little bit more slowly and cautiously into the back row anyway. You see, I'm starting by flipping up the Nerval and going into an Almirage play, even though I have plenty of potential in my hand for more plays. I'm committing the bare minimum to the board to try to bait out some of this back row. Now, that was actually a very risky play. If my opponent had flipped like Rivalry of the Warlords while Almirage is up, then I'm pretty screwed, right? Because Almirage is a Cybers, and we don't have any other, we don't have any other Cybers monsters we can summon. Similarly, Gozen was a bit risky, but if it was Gozen, at least we can counter the fire attribute. Or rather, we can have other monsters we can summon with the fire attribute. Our opponent warninged our Karis, which is not a huge deal. They're going to try to chalice our Fractal, or we have the Imperial Order all ready for that. At this point, our opponent's going to flip up their Conquistador in an attempt to save their own life points. It looks like this is a... I wouldn't even necessarily call this a budget Eldritch deck. Even though Forbidden Chalice is only a rare, it's still a pretty viable option. I think our opponent may have just gotten a little unlucky and not drawn any floodgates, which was pretty good for us. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get to attack for game once we flip up our Tri-Brigade Revolt here. So again, the key to playing into a lot of face-down cards, a lot of back row, like I said earlier, is you want to... You can take it a little bit more slow because you know your opponent's going to be taking it slowly since they just have a bunch of face-down cards. And you want to play very cautiously, right? Again, we want to be committing the absolute minimum to the board possible to try to start up our plays. We try to get to our opponent to negate that, and then we can use our further combo extender pieces to actually start new combos. It's why I wouldn't even consider this going second video and the combo tutorial video to be separate necessarily, because a lot of going second is just making sure we're keeping on top of what our opponent's doing, and then we're going into those combos still from the combo video. It's why in particular I wanted to show off what you can do with just one Fractal or like just 2 cards, because oftentimes it's how we're going to be winning these going second duels, is most of our hands going to be committed to like destroying our opponent's back row, dealing with their hand traps, or having our own hand traps to deal with their stuff, and then with the few cards left over is how we actually begin our plays. Okay, so let's see. Replay number 5 is a pretty good one to show off here. Let's go ahead and go straight into that one. This is going to be against Sky Strikers, actually, which is a deck I don't know if I've shown a replay against. Sky Strikers is one of those decks that's like kind of hovers around like tier 2, 3 from what I gather. It's kind of, I mean, at one point it was tier 1 obviously when it first came out and everything was at 3, but since then it kind of seems to hover somewhere between like tier 2 and 3, like semi-rogue deck status, but always a solid choice. I'm actually somewhat interested in the Sky Striker deck myself. So we see our opponent got a decent start. They set up their engage, but I opened the Imperial Order, so I'm actually not particularly afraid here. I do still want to clear these back rows, which is why I'm going to Desires. This is actually something that's very crucial. That's the difference between going first and second. When I go first, you notice that I combo and then I activate Desires. This is because I don't want to end up milling away any of my combo pieces with Desires. But when you're going second and your opponent has face down cards that you have to play through, then you want to Desires first, because getting rid of those cards are more of a threat than potentially banishing away 3 of our combo pieces. Like, those face down cards are going to be more likely to stop us. And that's why we want to go ahead and use Desires before we combo when going second, to try to get that back row hate. And you saw this game, we actually got the Lightning Storm, and we were able to get rid of not 1 but 2 Widow Anchor. From there, we're able to go into a fairly standard Tri-Brigade combo and get rid of their monster. And since they used Rose and not Ray, they're not able to get the Ray back for follow-up play. You see, we have Imperial Order here against these Sky Strikers, which is going to make them very, very sad. I don't play Imperial Order like specifically to counter Sky Strikers. It just happens to be, you know, a really, really good counterplay here. And after we flip up the Revolt, which funnily enough can't even summon a Shuri, if I remember correctly there, our opponent's just going to go ahead and concede. Okay, next up, replay number 7. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one here. Ah, yes. This is a replay against the mirror match, which this is going to show the importance of maining lots of copies of hand traps. Sometimes I see some people playing like 1 impermanence or like 2 Ash and 2 of another hand trap. And that's fine if that's however many copies you have. But if we have access to 3 of hand traps, you generally want to be playing them. And this game is going to be a pretty good show. Oh, you know what? Oh, I'm so sorry. I played the wrong replay here. That is my fault. It's this one here. I miscounted. I miscounted on my list. I apologize. That replay may or may not be for a future video. We'll see. Okay, so here we go into our replay against the mirror. Yeah, I saw myself going first and I was like, wait, this is the going second video. Yeah, here we go. So you see we opened with Ash and Imperm. Not even like, it's not like we opened like a whole bunch of hand traps. Like, opening an Ash and an Imperm is pretty average, I think. But we're playing against the mirror. We're going to go ahead and Ash their Nerval since we know that getting their graveyard set up is really important. So we're going to stop this search to leave them with only 1 Tri-monster in the grave. They're going to send a second with Nerval, they're going to send a second Nerval by summoning Almirage here. But when our opponent activates Karis to empty our grave, now we also have the impermanence to counter with. So if those of us who are experienced playing the deck, you can see how devastating this is, what we left our opponent with, right? Now they have no Tri-monsters in the grave to set up with. They have 2 cards in hand, and all they have on board is a Chaos and an Almirage, which they can't do anything with. So even with 2 hand traps, which again is like fairly average for an opening hand, we're able to just completely devastate our opponent's combo by importantly activating them at the right time. Now we're going to start off with our own Fractal combo. Our opponent's going to Ash, but we were the luckiest player in the world in top deck called by against their Ash, and I'm pretty sure at this point my opponent just, concedes. So, I don't know, you could argue that, oh, is it really a good example duel to show where you just got lucky and opened 2 hand traps? But again, because we're playing so many hand traps, like we have the 3 Ash, we have the 3 Imperm, we also have the 3 Max C, where it's not that out of the realm of possibility to open with 2 hand traps. Like, opening with Ash and Max C is good, opening with Max C and Imperm is good. Really, any combination of the 2 generally is often enough to just completely stop whatever your opponent's doing. So I do have one more duel here. I believe it is this one. I recognize the username more than anything of Lizard King. It's a fun name from my opponent. And this duel is actually going to be against, as my opponent's name might imply, dinosaurs. Which is the first time I've ever played against this deck. I'm familiar with their I was familiar with their boss monster, the big Tyranno that flips everything face down. But since we're a Link deck, I'm not super concerned about that. Now here's the infamous Miscellaneous Saurus, which is not only going to keep my hand traps from working against their dinosaurs, but it's also going to summon a dino from grave. I attempted to stop this effect with Called By, or with Ash, but then I got Called By'd. Since I knew that my Ash was going to get negated, I chained Max C so that I could gain a draw off of this special summon. You want to make sure that you're timing your draw, or you're timing your hand traps this way, particularly with Max C, because if I had waited, I wouldn't have gotten the draw. When there's no reason to wait, when we have the ability to chain before the special summon. So I don't really know if I was gonna say, yep, standard dinosaur plays, but again, I've actually never played against dinosaurs except this one game. So, I mean, I know getting the Tyranno out is what they try to do, but I don't know how standard of a combo this is. But yeah, our opponent's going pretty hard into the Max C here, which as a rule of thumb, I tend to disagree with. I don't know why they summon that Secure Gardener. It doesn't end up doing anything, so Yeah, there are times where it's right to play into Maxi and let your opponent draw a few cards to get a combo off where you might otherwise lose the game. But I think in a case like this, and in most cases in general, I mean, if you give your opponent as many cards as I have right here, they're just going to win. Like, there's no doubt about it. I mean, obviously it could happen. They could still lose, but the likelihood of your opponent winning goes way, way, way up. So I know that Tyranno can flip monsters face down. That's why I specialed Carusset to activate the effect to try to bait the Tyranno out. But since it's our opponent's only form of disruption here, I'm pretty secure in going for the rest of my combos. And we're pretty easily able to set up a big board with not only a Shurag on this turn, but also a Revolt on the next turn. We're going to banish our opponents. Obviously, their ultimate conductor Tyranno is it's too big for our Omen to run over. And then from here, we're actually going to go straight into the battle phase because it's obviously we have more attack points on board right now than if we linked all three of these away. Yeah, I attacked the face down with Omen because I wasn't, again, too familiar with dinosaur decks, and I didn't know maybe they had one that had a lot of defense points, so I guess generally speaking, if you're not super familiar with the deck and or you're attacking to a face down monster where you know the opponent has high defense, it's always just better to attack with your biggest monster. I mean, that's a super simple tip, right? Like, not that you need me to tell you that. Yeah, our opponent's going to use the big evolution pill here. We actually want to chain Rugal's effect to this double evolution pill because we're going to get to summon something which will trigger Omen, and then after we do the summon, then the ultimate Tyranno comes out, and now we can trigger Shurag's ability. Here it doesn't really matter, but there are cases where it does. Yeah, we're going to get to banish this Tyranno, and then we even have the Called By to stop our opponent from monster boarding the Nibiru, their last-ditch effort play. So, we're definitely just bullying our opponent at this point, but they're not going to get to do anything, and here they're just going to go ahead and concede. Alright, so those are all of the replays that I've got for you today. I hope this video was helpful in terms of just showing some not only example games where we win going second, but through those games kind of exploring what to generally look for when going second. If you have any other suggestions for videos or anything that you really want to see in particular, feel free to let me know in the comments. As is apparent with just the fact that I made this video, I am reading them, and I am taking your guys' consideration or your guys' suggestions into consideration when making these. Obviously, I want to make the stuff that you guys want to watch, which, as I have said every video for the last, 4 videos, I have to thank everyone again for watching. It genuinely means a lot to me. In any case, this is Hexlex, signing out. Have a good day.